I have so many revelations when I'm at Costco. Every single time I'm at Costco, I'm just like, I have so many breakthroughs. I was at Costco today, and there was this man standing in front of me in the checkout line. And I noticed him glance at me, whatever. I was behind him in line. I was just like, okay, he's just looking around, whatever. And then he proceeds to turn halfway to the side, like a little side angle, and flex his muscles. And it wasn't like a it wasn't like a just a casual thing. It was like this man really just flexed his muscle, like flicked out his fingers, like looked down at his arm. And then I'm like, okay. And I like giggle to myself a little bit. I'm like, okay, this man's a little strange. And then in the following 5 to 7 minutes that I'm still behind him in line at Costco, he proceeds to continuously turn around and look at me. And he never says anything, though. He just looks. And then we get next in line to where he's the one getting checked out. And I put my order on the conveyor belt. And I'm buying this cake. And it rolls and it looks like it's going into his items for his checkout. And he just keeps shaking his head with like a little like smile, a little grin on his face. He's like, "Oh, have you ever tried it?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Have you ever tried it?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, like, yeah, I bought it for my daughters. It wasn't good." And I'm just like, "Okay." And he just proceeds to like grin and nod at me. And I'm just like, dude, what is going on? And I'm just like, I laugh it off because I'm like, man, he's just messy. he's just a little bit messy. And then I walk outside of Costco and I'm, walking back to my car to put my stuff in the cart. And I just see these carts. I see these carts outside and they're filled with like the free samples, wrappers and stuff. There's like boxes just left in these carts in the parking lot. And I'm just like, man, humans are so messy. People are so messy. And I'm like, that's it. People are so messy. Yes. There is not going to be ever a day on earth where people are not messy. People are not perfect. People are messy. And I really just like thought about it. And it's like, this is something that I've heard over and over before in my life. But it was like in that moment, it really clicked. Like, people are messy. And I feel like for a long time on my learning journey, I was so afraid of people. I was so afraid that people were going to treat me how I was treated, by people who abused me in the past. I was so afraid of not being abused that I completely like went the other direction and almost kind of like was operating in a way that welcomed in the exact thing that I was trying to avoid. And I think it's because of this simple fact that I didn't comprehend, was that like humans are messy. People are messy. There's never going to be a perfect person that doesn't hurt you, that doesn't have any misunderstandings, that doesn't trigger you in some way. But I think the thing that I'm realizing, and the thing that kept me stuck in a lot of negative and maybe harmful, even toxic relationships, was the fact that I believed there were perfect people out there, and that some perfect person was going to be all good and no bad. Genuinely. And so I couldn't hold the fact that most and all people have some good and some bad. And I would go back and forth with myself. I would be like, man, like, no, but they did this good thing. So that means that all the bad stuff they did, it can't be real. It can't be, no, because they still did this good. Wait, I'm so confused. No, they're bad because they did this bad thing, but they also did this good thing. And that kept me stuck in a lot of relationships that I should have ended a long time prior. You know what I'm saying? That kept me stuck, going back and forth, confused, because I couldn't accept the fact that people are messy, and the toxic people are going to have both good and bad, honey. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. If they were all bad, you would literally be like, what the hell? What is this person doing? Like, who do they think they are? They're gone. I can't do this. Toxic people have to have good and bad. Every people has to have good and bad. And so I think this is really freeing me and releasing a lot of fear. And what I'm realizing is I can trust myself to be stable enough in my own life, in my own security, my own structure, my own purpose, to where I can accept that humans are flawed and humans are messy and people are messy and people are always going to be messy because we're not perfect. And now I accept right away, people will have good and bad. So now I'm more curious to see what the good and bad are, so then I can make an educated, informed decision on if the good outweighs the bad, and if their bad is something that I'm willing to tolerate because I want the connection, because the connection, you know, brings something, brings the energy, brings something that I feel outweighs the bad. And I've heard people explain this to me before in the past, and I think I intellectualized it, but I didn't integrate it. Like, I didn't really live through it. I didn't understand it. I was still walking around afraid, running into the arms of predators because they seemed good, right? They were nice in the beginning, you know? But then the bad came in and I said, hey, wait a second. They can't be bad because they were good, right? And then I get confused for about a while. And by the time I'm unconfused, I'm just embarrassed that I've been putting up with it this whole time, right? Because I thought they were just good. They can't be both. Everybody is both. Everybody is going to have good and bad. They're going to have good and bad days. They're going to have good and bad times. They're going to have good and bad years. Like, genuinely, they're going to have good and bad qualities. They're going to have good and bad connections. They're going to have good and bad, you know, views maybe. Like, everybody has duality, and I think I'm embracing the messiness. I think I had to embrace my own messiness to be like, yeah, everybody's messy. I'm messy. I'm good and bad at different times, and I can admit that. I can admit my mess, and I can say, hey, I cleaned up my mess, or I'm cleaning up my mess. So how does this other person handle their mess and their bad aspects? Do they pretend they're not there? Do they pretend they're perfect? Do they take accountability when they do mess up? And I think this is where it becomes extremely important to have a list already written out of qualities and things that if this person does this, they do not get a second chance. I cannot welcome them back in. This is not okay. What is that? Maybe that's something very extreme like hitting. Maybe that's something very extreme like cursing you out. Maybe it's less extreme. Maybe it's, hey, if this person's family doesn't rock with me, that's not something I can sit and hope and wait my way through. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's something even smaller. Maybe it's, man, you know what? I really can't get past X feature. I really can't get past X. Whatever. That's your standard. That is your boundary. That is your non-negotiable. And if that comes up, that means, hey, regardless of how good that person was at X time and how they showed up for me at X time, I cannot let this slide. I do not agree with this. I gotta go. And that's okay. And you have to stand on that and be secure enough in yourself to get that. And yeah, I'm just like, people are really messy. I'm really messy. Okay? And that's okay. There's going to be some people out there who are going to accept your mess and accept you and the bad parts, you know, if you take accountability, if you don't roll over and die when the bad parts happen, you know what I'm saying? If you're trying, there's going to be people who will accept and love you, honey, but you have to accept your bad parts to even get there. And that's something that I'm working on myself and something that I'm realizing myself. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that, that thought. And this is a moment where I'm going to say, don't take my word for it. Obviously, ask your ancestors. But really, I think even deeper than that, you have to ask your body. When you leave the interaction with somebody, maybe you could adopt this exercise that I've been doing. Take out your notes app and just jot down like, hey, like I interacted with so-and-so on this day. I left feeling blank. Hey, I interacted with so-and-so. They texted me. After they texted me, I felt blank. And that's really going to put the power back on your body, because your mind can't sit there and get confused and say, oh, they're good and bad. Oh, no, wait, they did this, but there is no confusion when you ask your body. When you receive that text and your stomach drops to the floor and you realize, why am I nervous? Why am I anxious? Why am I overthinking about this? When you have to pull out AI, when you got to go ask ChatGPT, what's going on? Am I correct on this? You just know, hey, hang it up. Hang it up. If that person is causing confusion in your life, honey, there's no space for them. And that's a journey we all got to walk, on our own time. But this is just something that I've adopted in my life, and I think it's good to get data and then to decide where somebody might fit in your life or where they may not fit. And that's okay. All right, y'all. This is Soul signing off. I love you so very much. I'll talk to y'all next time. Bye.